There you go.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is a sunny day in Albuquerque today, and I'm both pleased to continue to be part of the Twin Cities Sangha and I'm very much honored to have been asked to say a few words this morning with some thoughts on the Dharma. Let me see if I can get my screen sharing. Do, 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 do. There we go. Well, in March of this year, Carolyn and I traveled to Berkeley, California, to visit our daughter and son-in-law. And on Sunday that week, we attended services at the Berkeley Buddhist Temple, which is the BCA affiliated temple, not very far from her apartment. It was our second time at this really very pretty, elegant edifice. Um, and the service that week included both a children's Dharma talk and then an adult Dharma message, which was a really nice combination. And once again, just an excellent immersive service with live music. Well, after the service, we joined the Sangha for refreshments and fellowship. I have to admit, I was a little saddened thinking back to previous similar times at the Y on Lake Street. But on the wall of the fellowship hall was a poster about something I had not actually encountered before. It was a poster about the six, excuse me, six, six paramitas. Paramita is a Sanskrit term, often translated as perfection, described in Buddhist commentaries as a noble character quality, generally associated with enlightened beings. As many of you know, I'm a latecomer to Buddhism and to Jodo Shinshu. And as a result, I didn't have the benefit of Dharma school when I was young, as the children and the families there in Berkeley clearly do. This was a poster, in fact, from their Dharma school. So I've endeavored to catch up in my recent adult years, and that's a challenge for those of us who've had a few years to do things. But this is the first time I'd encountered the paramitas, and it sent me off to expand my knowledge. So I'd like to share a part of my journey with you today, my exploration based on that poster on the wall in Berkeley. And you can see the six concepts here: generosity, moral conduct, forbearance and diligence, contemplation, wisdom. And since they do come from Sanskrit, they go through many translations as Buddhism moved from India, east and south, and eventually to Japan. But these are the most common translations. And as I was reading and learning about the six paramitas, I found that the perfections, as these are described, are most commonly associated with bodhisattvas who are seeking to perfect themselves and become Buddhas. And as for us who are not quite that far along the path, the six paramitas are not just a nice looking list, but they're states of mind that we can use as we go about our daily lives. They enable us to avoid and solve problems, help us to rid ourselves of disturbing emotions and mental states, and empower us to be of best help to others. And that's an important piece, I think, because the perfections are specific ways of benefiting other beings. They demonstrate mindfulness and compassion and can be cultivated with the goal of liberation, not just for oneself as one practices, but for all beings. Uh, Reverend Henry Adams of the San Mateo Buddhist temple had a nice explanation, I thought. He said, the Mahayana Buddhist tradition places a strong emphasis on benefiting others as the goal of Buddhist practice. The six paramitas encompass the virtues of the Eightfold Path while emphasizing benefit for others. And I like this particular listing that I found out of the six perfections because it tied into elements of the Eightfold Path and really showed that these weren't just standalone ideas, but were much more of an integrated, how shall we be the better people with the guidance of the Dharma. And Reverend Kenneth Tanaka, who I think we all know as a seminal Jodo Shinshu scholar, related the paramitas in a different way, not just to the Eightfold Path, but to the Golden Chain and its trinity of pure thought, words, and actions. And we all have said these lines at various services, but Dr. Tanaka noted that the paramitas are ideals which we cannot fully attain in this life, but they're ones we need to acknowledge. They remind us to be always conscious of body, speech, and mind as we reflect here in thoughts, words, and deeds. To always be conscious of what we do, what we say, and what we think. In the Jodo Shinshu correspondence course on general Buddhism that I took in 2021, 2022, we explored the key distinction in a piece of Jodo Shinshu thinking. The distinction between self-power and other power. And that came up again as I learned more about the six paramitas. And what I discovered was a recurring reminder that we need to move from frustrating attempts to find those aspects in the perfections of wisdom or compassion or fortitude, of generosity, to not just keep trying to get there through the exercise of our own power and understanding, because that leads to the same frustration that we have anytime we try to elevate just ourselves. Instead, as we look at the process of inculcating the paramitas, we need to move towards confidence in other power, in confidence in that we can rely upon Amida Buddha and the primal vow, because those are the means by which we can attain enlightenment, rather than just trying to struggle on our own to achieve wisdom or compassion through our small efforts. We can open ourselves to reliance upon Amida Buddha to enfold us in great wisdom and great compassion through the workings of the primal vow. And I wrote in one of my essays in that JSCC course that Nembutsu practice is all that is needed to reach Shinjin, to come to the place of trust in Amida Buddha and his primal vow to save all beings everywhere at all times. And I readily admit that for me, opening myself to Nembutsu practice has been a challenge. So many of my earlier life lessons have been about ego and personal efforts towards success. That reversing those lessons is not always easy for me. But I find that speaking and listening to Nembutsu is a powerful antidote to those old lessons. And it provides a calming vehicle towards entrusting, towards Shinjin. The last time I spoke at one of our services, I used Dr. Tanaka's parable of the drowning sailor as the theme of that talk. And the key there was that the sailor finally realized it wasn't his own training and skill in swimming that was going to keep him afloat after falling overboard, but rather it was the buoying power of the ocean that was going to save him. And I believe that if we are willing to reach beyond our own limitations and trust the buoying power of Shinjin to support us, the aspirational perfections of the paramitas are within our reach. So those were the learnings that I have taken from that poster that spoke to me in the Berkeley Fellowship Hall, and have tried to deepen my understanding and relation with Nembutsu practice. So let me close on a personal note. May 19th, 1983. Well, today is the 51st anniversary of Carolyn and my wedding in St. Paul here at the McAllister College Chapel. So right to the day, 51 years. I will not claim to have mastered the fourth paramita, that of perseverance, but I am pleased to note that we have persevered together. So I will stop there and thank you all for your kindness and attention. And hopefully this was an interesting exploration this morning. So I'll ask you all to join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Dao, Namo Dao, Namo Dao. And back to you.